Hi, I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins, and welcome to Financial Lovemaking. This is where we talk about love, money, life, and everything it takes to get your money right and to get your family right and to just get your life right, to live a wealthy life. And my partner in crime on this is S. Tia Brown, who's out of New York. How you doing today, Tia?
I'm doing great. Nice talking to you as always.
Oh, it is a pleasure speaking to you as well. And I don't mention very often the fact that you are just a super educated sister. Like, you went to Columbia and studied counseling. So when you give advice, you really know what you're talking about. Right.
Kind of, sort of. Yeah.
Kind of, sort of.
A little bit.
And I think that's important to mention because, you have a lot of people out here who give tons of advice but don't really have any credentials to kind of back that up. And I've been friends with Tia for seriously, I mean, really, Bishop Lodi J, feels like he can just pretend to be doctor whatever because he took a 6-week class. And I'm not hating on it, but the fact is that, there are some differences there, right? I think there is something valuable to be learned in a book. And
I completely agree.
Yeah, and so I like to mention that. I like to brag about that because I've been friends with Tia for many years, and I remember when Tia told me that she was going to endure the massive amount of money it costs to go back to Columbia to get that degree. And a lot of people say, "Oh, I'm going to go back to school," and then things happen, they can't do it. And going back to school is one thing, but going back to school at an Ivy is a whole nother level because the cost is so high. So I just think I think that when people do amazing stuff like that, we got to celebrate that and talk about it. So excuse me for bragging. I had to do it.
No, definitely. First, I have to say I went back to school because as much as I enjoy being a journalist and giving my opinion, I did want to be able to impart life skills on people in a helping way that could give them real tools to change. So I was really excited about the opportunity to go back. And it's funny that you're bringing it up today because I just renewed my license again. And so it's been 3 years since I graduated. I can't believe how quickly time has passed. From us just talking about it, from me going to school for 2 years, completing the program, and then being out, adding that to, my professional skill set. So, yay!
Hooray for you. Now that you finished bragging about yourself. Just so
little bit.
Go ahead, dust your shoulders off, girl. We were talking today about something that a lot of people were kind of buzzing about, and we just kind of wanted to chime in on this to make it a learnable moment as opposed to just a learnable and teachable moment as opposed to just a gossipy kind of moment. Right. Is Anita Baker, who is just one of the most amazing singers of all time, just an angelic voice, who's made. Gosh, I wouldn't be surprised if she's made $100 million, over the years. She recently had a warrant put out for her arrest for not showing up to court in a lawsuit. She was being sued by a company. The company's name was Ray A. Smith Painting and Decorating, which is, sounds like they might work the hood in the suburbs. I don't know, but Ray A. Smith. They were paid $60,000 in advance to do a $75,000 job, and Anita didn't pay the last 15. So, which is kind of surprising, right? Because you expect somebody of her stature could come up with $15,000, under her couch. But Anita didn't pay, and they sued, and they pushed the issue, and then eventually it ended with a warrant for her arrest, which was a huge embarrassment for Anita. Before we get into even more of the details, I mean, what were your thoughts when you kind of first saw what was going on here?
Well, there are two different schools of thought, I think, here. First, you have like the celebrities who are so massive that they have their handlers handling everything, meaning your accountants, your assistants, and they're a little bit detached. But then there's also people who just become a little bit detached themselves when they're personally handling situations, and they're in a bit of denial. And denial is a defense that is commonly used when people don't want to deal with a situation and kind of think, oh, I'm just going to push this aside. It will resolve itself. Now, typically, when you are mandated to come to court, that is handled directly to the person. So it's not like you could say to Boyce, oh, Tia has to come to court. I have to be known when there's a court mandated appearance. So to me, it was, obviously a little bit sad that she was in such a position where she kind of it seems that he buried her head in the sand and just did not want to deal with this debt for whatever reason, whether she disagreed with the service or wasn't pleased with the service or just kind of felt like she didn't have to pay the debt. But, it's very important to handle all situations as they occur. You can't just close your eyes and hope that things are going to go away. Things do get bigger and they don't resolve themselves. And she could have avoided this embarrassment purely by handling the situation straight on, even if it meant she was refuting the bill. But to just say, I'm not going to show up in court and show that lack of accountability, it's just sad.
Well, it is interesting, how sometimes it seems that celebrities can get caught by sort of believing that there are just things they don't have to deal with. I mean, and again, I've never been a mega celeb, but you and I have spent a lot of time around celebrities, and we've dealt with getting a lot of attention ourselves, with the positions that you've had, with major media outlets, have, I'm sure, led to people bombarding you. I've been bombarded, on certain occasions. And I think that, and I think for some mega celebs, it's probably that times 100. And I think that what maybe happens is they gain this psychological insulation where they get good at screening things out and saying, you know what, I don't have to deal with you. I'm not going to deal with you. The only way I'm going to deal with you is if you prove that I have to deal with you, right? You become enough of a nuisance, or you become there you go. You have to force my hand. And I think that maybe this is what happened here. Maybe they felt they had to force Anita's hand. Maybe Anita needed her hand to be forced. I mean, because now she's dealing with it. Now she's commenting on it. Now she went on Twitter, and I think her first comment was that the devil show is busy. Did you see that?
I did. But you also mentioned that she's had a similar situation in the past where she had to be forced to go to court because she didn't want to move. Again, kind of digging her heels in the sand, burying her head in the sand, and waiting for the final consequence before taking action. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, if you go back, actually, what's really interesting is that, you hear Anita say, there's two angles here. Number one, Anita says that she didn't know about the lawsuit. She just says, I didn't even know that this suit existed. I wasn't served. But I went online and I saw something from 2010 where it was reported in the media that this company was suing her, and this was 4 years ago. And so this has been out there, and it's been in the press. And if our people read the press, they know that this suit existed. And again, I think that lends credibility to your theory that maybe they buried their head in the sand and said, look, as long as we don't get served, we can pretend like this lawsuit doesn't exist. But I mean, it's right there in the press. And maybe people are making things up, but this article was published 4 years ago. The other thing is that, that there is a kind of a pattern here in terms of Anita ignoring legal stuff, when it comes to her divorce from her husband back in 2010. If you recall, she almost went to jail then for refusing to sign the divorce papers. So it's kind of sad to see somebody that we respect so much, as an artist, Anita Baker, kind of being this person who shows this pattern of having to be pushed to the edge before she does what she's supposed to do.
Take action. And I think it really humanizes the experience of celebrity, because a lot of times we put people on this pedestal and we think everything's supposed to be perfect, but sometimes people just have a really tough time coping with change and things that they don't want to happen. So a divorce is a prime example of that. If you don't want to be divorced or you don't want to close that chapter for any reason, how do I stop this from happening? How do I delay? How do I keep myself stuck? And that's really what happens when you don't move forward, when there are crises happening in your life. So I think the lesson here is, if there's an issue going on, whether it's a personal issue, whether it's a financial issue, when action needs to be taken, you can't close your eyes and wish it away. You have to be proactive. You have to go on the offensive, because it won't just resolve itself. You have to make that change.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that, for those of us who haven't made $100 million with, displaying our angelic voice to the world, you can't ignore those lawsuits. One thing that people have to understand, and this is me putting on my finance hat, is that debtors' prisons are back in effect. There are lots of people who do go to jail now for not paying their debts, and it usually has to do with contempt of court, not showing up to court, ignoring the letters in the mail and the the papers that serve you and all that stuff. So just be careful, because they won't be as nice to you as they are to Anita Baker. TMZ will not care what you have to say about about your warrant. Well, thank you. It was great getting the chance to talk to you again, Tia. It's always a pleasure, ma'am.
Great talking to you as well, and thanks to everyone for tuning in, and stay tuned for the next time.
Yes, ma'am. Bye-bye.
Bye.